Thank you for coming. Education has been cut more in Oklahoma than any other state in the country. For years, the Oklahoma legislature refused to do what is right for our students. Because of the members of the Oklahoma Education Association and overwhelming support by the public, we were able to secure $479 million in education funding. Nevertheless, the legislature has fallen well short of their responsibility to Oklahoma's students. The goals of OEA's Together We're Stronger campaign are to secure significant raises for teachers and education support professionals and to restore the funding cuts from Oklahoma public education classrooms over the past decade. Let's look at what we have achieved thus far in the first year of our 3-year campaign. Education funding was cut. The legislature neglected education for the decade. Think about that for a second. After that decade of cuts, we have secured nearly $500 million in new revenue for education in just the last few weeks. The presence and persistence of Oklahoma educators and supporters have brought the largest pay raise in state history to teachers, a line item pay raise for support professionals for only the second time in history, and $70 million in recurring revenue for classrooms. Each and every one who has marched at the Capitol, written emails, made calls, and worked in so many ways in their own communities should be overwhelmed with pride. You have achieved a historic victory for our students, and it shouldn't have to be historic. The biggest financial victory in history for our students. We need to face reality. Despite tens of thousands of people filling the Capitol and spilling out onto the grounds of this Capitol for 9 days, we have seen no significant legislative movement since last Friday. OEA leadership has been negotiating in good faith with House and Senate. Senate Republicans won't budge an inch on any more revenue for public education. They are even unwilling to pass a resolution as a good show of faith of intention to fund education in the future. They say they don't believe Oklahoma students need more funding, and they're wrong. Those lawmakers are simply refusing to cross the finish line. OEA has been polling our membership since last Monday, and we can report that 70% of respondents indicate they are unsure that continuing the walkout phase of our campaign will likely lead to further achievement of the Together We're Stronger goals, with legislators who have abdicated their responsibility to Oklahoma's children in spite of the public support for our walkout. While the walkout has helped us achieve almost all of our plan's goals for the campaign's first year, we are in this for the long haul, and now it's time to shift our focus. So, while the walkout is ending today and we're going back to school, we are not just giving up and going home. Instead, we are moving on to the next phase in our ongoing efforts. As Deb Gist said Tuesday, when 40 marchers completed that 110-mile journey from Tulsa, this is not a protest. This is not a rally. This is a movement. We want every school district to start sending lobby teams to the Capitol next week. There are still education-related bills to be heard. Some of them are punitive because some legislators don't like that we have found our voice and are taking our power back. OEA will continue to provide support with messaging and other resources for those teams. As classes resume, we must turn our attention towards election season. We must work harder than ever to elect education champions who will put students first. In addition to making our case at the steps of the Capitol, we have the opportunity to make our voices heard at the ballot box. The state didn't find itself in a school funding crisis overnight. We got here by electing the wrong people to office. No more. A record number of candidates have filed for office, including OEA members, who will be the best advocates for our students at the Oklahoma legislature. This fight is not over just because the school bell will ring once more. We have created a movement, and there is no stopping us. Yesterday and today, 582 candidates filed for office, and that number is no doubt growing. We must support candidates who have helped us achieve our goals and vote out those who have not. Many of the worst offenders now have strong opposition whom we will help elect. There is also a group who wants to take away the raises for all of the funding we secured for education over the last 3 weeks. Former Senator Tom Coburn and his group will be passing a petition that will allow the people of Oklahoma to repeal our efforts. We must not sign it. We must defeat that effort. We realize that the decision to shift focus is not going to be embraced by everyone. But there comes a time when if what you're doing is not getting the results you seek, there is wisdom in shifting focus. That focus shift can lead to more victories. We have said all along that when our members indicate the need to move in a different direction, that we will follow and listen to what they say. They have spoken, we are listening, we are acting. We are in a marathon, not a sprint, and we will continue our advocacy at the legislature through the remainder of this session, then to the ballot boxes, and we will be back next year and the year after and the year after in pursuit of our remaining Together We're Stronger goals. Together, we are stronger. Some districts have already canceled for tomorrow, and we call on those educators and support professionals to use tomorrow as another day of action. Although the legislature won't be here, we want everyone to take time to thank the food banks, the Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCAs, churches, businesses, our partners in the labor movement, both in Oklahoma and across the country, the students, administrators, and school boards who have supported this movement. Thank you. Thank you to the countless Oklahomans who have been behind us every step of the way. Thank you to the Oklahoma Highway Patrol and the Capitol staff who have been gracious hosts of tens of thousands of surprise guests for the past 9 days. I call on our community members to continue supporting these educators as they walk back into the classroom. We want as much support for them after the walkout as we've received during the walkout. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Thornton, a teacher from Tulsa Public Schools.
Good afternoon. I believe I got a little sun and this room is warm. So, teachers have made a huge impact on my life. Before I became a teacher 14 years ago, all through my education and since then. I'm deeply devoted to education in Oklahoma and to the students with whom I teach. This legislature and the legislature for 10 years before it have pit my passion for education and my students against my family's needs to survive. Because of the member activism and engagement that we have had here at the Capitol, I get some relief. And I hope that more teachers will flood back into the state or make the decision that they can afford to stay here to educate the children of our future. Thank you.
Lawrence Lane, teacher at Checotah.
Good afternoon. After 38 years in this profession, I've been empowered this week. I've been empowered by the thousands of individuals that I've had an opportunity to visit with and talk to over the last 9 days. I've seen individuals from places like Tulsa, Oklahoma, who had never, ever been involved politically, who have gotten involved politically, who are now putting their names into the ballot box to be voted on in November. It's been an empowering movement. Has it been frustrating at times? Of course. But after 38 years of being in this profession and having walked in 1990 and again 28 years later, I'm empowered by the movement that I've seen this session.
Zach Murray, Ponca City.
Good afternoon. In my 11 years of teaching, most of my career has been in a time when education has faced cuts from the legislature. I came here with my colleagues to fight for our students to improve the funding that they could get to get a qualified education, a highly qualified education. While we will be returning to our classroom, we will not stop fighting for them. We are going to be sending delegates to the Capitol every day until the session is over to lobby for those bills that will provide a better education and to fight against those bills that will take that education away. We will continue that fight next year during next year's legislative session. We will go to the ballot boxes in June, and in November, we will campaign for candidates who are friendly to public education. We want the legislature to know that we have put them on notice, and no more will education be secondary to everything else.
Thank you. I'll take a couple of questions.
Will school start tomorrow for the kids, or will they start back on Monday?
That's up to the districts.
Can you react, streaming on social media here, hundreds and hundreds of angry emojis and saying you don't speak for them?
We have the same in Tulsa.
This legislature couldn't get 75% of their body to pass funding for education for over 10 years. So if we talk about the 50,000 teachers across the state, that is even more difficult to coalesce on a daily basis. Our members are saying they are ready to go back to their classrooms, and we will continue supporting them as they come lobby on a daily basis, and we will support their back home activities as well.
Alicia, Bonnie campaign is now. I need to know, do you all chalk this up to a victory for teachers?
We absolutely have a victory for teachers. $500 million is a victory, but but the legislature has fallen short on funding the promise for the future of education in our state, and that's why we shift our focus to a movement that is beyond just in this building at this very moment.
$500 million was passed before the teachers walked out. I mean, how do you?
We also got funding afterwards. So thank you.
That only replaces hotel motel repeal, so it's not.
It is additional money.
Yes, it is additional money, but it is not near what you had asked in the first place. And this walkout had continued for 9 days, and that $447 million of the tax package was passed before the walkout started.
And yesterday we were in talks with both House and Senate leadership, and after our meeting with Senate leadership today, the Republican Senate caucus decided that they did not want to move forward in any way to have a resolution of support for the future or any other support for public education funding or revenue sources this year. So that is the big change from that conversation that we had specifically with Senate leadership today.
Which does not change
Thank
what
you.
has been said for the last several days.
Alicia, what percentage of your teachers responded to
Alicia, any more
the?
questions?